Hello and welcome to the Live Life Golden Show. This is episode 59, How to Stop Hating Yourself and Truly Heal. A surprising title for myself. This whole show is definitely taking a turn for something very different than I thought it was going to be. If I had recorded it earlier in the week, it would have been a totally different story. So I want to share a little bit about my weekend, about my valley fever, all the things that have been going on in my life experience, and jump into how this is relevant to the show today. So we went to Palm Springs for my husband's birthday. He turned 52. Can't believe it. And we had an amazing time. We stayed in Talavera, which is this gorgeous place in Palm Springs. If you ever go, I'm going to highly recommend this place. We had our own little backyard. We had our own little hot tub. It was amazing. They had pools. It was just adults, and we made some wonderful friends, and it was super amazing. The weather was incredible. And what came with the rooms was bikes. So we ended up, actually, there was 4 bikes for the whole place, and we asked, no one was using them. Hello. So we asked if we could borrow them and asked if we could keep them in our backyard and use them, throughout the day, because we wanted to get out early because it got, it got on the hot side in the afternoon. And so we biked all over Palm Springs. It was super fun. Hardly got in the car at all. And I love that. I love being able to bike everywhere and walk everywhere. And so Monday we came back, and Monday I woke up feeling really weird. And I thought it was because I had drank more alcohol than I normally do. So I was like, wow, man, this alcohol is just killing my body. Like, I just felt inflamed. I didn't feel hungover. I felt inflamed. Like, my body was just in a lot of pain. My skin hurt. And I kind of attributed that to maybe too much sun. And so we made it through the day, and we made it on our way home. And I just totally fell asleep in the car. And then when we got home, I started to feel like the chills, and my skin started, my body started to really ache, and I started to get the chills. And then my husband started to get the chills. And oddly enough, our power went out. So weird. A transformer blew in our neighborhood. So our power went out. So we ended up going to bed at 7 o'clock because we were both just feverish and feeling really weird, and there was no lights. And so we didn't even eat dinner. We just went to bed. So that night really sweated it out. And the other thing that I noticed on Monday was my lungs really hurt. And I thought that was really strange because I didn't really go underwater at all in the pool. We just kind of swam. I don't like to get my hair wet. You know what I'm saying, people? So I thought that was weird because my lungs kind of felt heavy and a little waterlogged. And I thought, geez, I feel like I have desert fever, which was a really weird thought that just came out of nowhere. So, and the interesting thing about valley fever, if you've never heard of it, and, how do I know I had it? And I'm going to explain to you why I know I had it. These symptoms are exactly like the C, the big C. So most people would say, oh, I definitely have that. But I've actually had the big C twice, and this was so different. I never actually got a fever with that. And I had a fever for probably about 3 days. I don't get fevers very often. So I can't even tell you the last time I've had a fever. So that was really, really interesting. So my lungs started to get really, really intense, and I started to have a lot of trouble breathing. Like when I got up, and I was luckily, amazingly, and wonderfully, I have this incredible man in my life now who is a naturopath physician. And he suggested that I vaporize colloidal silver. And I'm going to suggest that for all of you to get some of this stuff. It's amazing. And I know they sell nose drops and stuff, and it kills any lung infection, any bacteria. I had considered going to the doctors, but I didn't want to deal with testing and all of that crap that comes with that right now. So I decided to just take it upon myself and work on my healing game. So I started vaporizing, and I was down for the count. And the interesting thing about illness and sickness, especially when you're super feverish, that I noticed was I couldn't do anything else. I didn't even want music on. You just want to lay there. You just want to be quiet. You just want to rest, right? Even if you're not sleeping, it's very meditative, I think. So I went to some pretty intensely deep places over the last few days. And I had a download come to me, and this is like, super personal stuff about my life. And I don't know how deep I'm going to go into this, or how deep or how ready I am to go into this. But it was so like the amazing download that I got about why I had this illness and what it was about was completely connected to my biological family, who I've been estranged from for 14 years. Now, I think it's important to say I got to come with a disclaimer right now. I think this is not to like defamate anybody or to say it was anybody's fault or to blame anyone. I truly believe that we're on this soul's path together. We're on a journey and we are brought here contractually. I really do believe that every relationship we have is about a contract. And I believe that, I was brought into a family who helped me to find out how strong I am and helped me to find out how powerful I am through quite a deal of trauma and powerlessness. So I don't blame, I don't have any resentment, I don't have any anger. I only have love. But what I realized over the course of this fever was that now lungs are very much connected to grief. They're very much connected to sadness. They're very much connected to grief. And so I realized all over the course, I got this massive download, and I got more downloads last night as my whole childhood unleashed on me. Not just my childhood, but even the life that I've created with my husband and my family, and how I have navigated my life experience, and how I have consistently looked for reasons to feel loved and looked towards a lot of people who were unloving towards me to try to get that love. So it was really, it's been really eye opening. And I think there was a huge piece of blame and self-hatred that I had for myself in feeling like I created all of this. And if you look at law of attraction, yes, we create our own realities. But the truth is, like, when we don't know we're creating stuff, many times we're just creating from wounds. And that was the course of my life for a very long time, up until about 14 years ago when I said enough is enough. And I took my power back and I self-preserved and I did what I needed to do for my family and for myself to create a wonderful life, to create this fantastic life that I live. But the thing about creating a fantastic life, the thing about even a midlife crisis, I said to my husband today, I'm like, I think I'm having a midlife crisis. And he said, okay, do you want a red Corvette? And I was like, that's why people get red Corvettes, because it's easier to go out and buy something than it is to sit down and deal with your shit, like to really deal with and face these feelings that are underneath. And if you don't deal with them, you're vibrating with them and you're going to create scenarios that are going to give you proof and evidence of them. Now, I haven't necessarily, created a bunch of evidence of unlovability in my life in the past 14 years. I have not. I have worked through a lot of relationships that I have chosen myself, that I have chosen to become whole again, and realized that those relationships didn't serve me. So there's been a process. And I want you to know that no matter where you are in this healing game, it's okay. Like, it's totally okay. And you're in the perfect place to heal and to become more. And that's what really matters. It's not like for me to sit here and beat myself up. Like, if I had, my last episode was, shutting down the shitty committee. If I had that shitty committee like on speed dial, I would have been having a much harder time with this. And I'm not having the easiest time with it. I'll be totally honest with you. This is the first time I think I've had a massive amount of anxiety before I've done my podcast. And it's also the first time it's taken me this long to get a podcast out. However, I was healing, and I do really value self-care and meditating and journaling when you are going through something like this and just withdrawing from the world. And Valley Fever did me a favor because I had no other choice but to look at what was happening and what's been going on deep, deep, deep. Like, these are super freaking deep layers, like so deep that I haven't even connected with them in a long time. I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, my husband saying to me, when are you going to stop blaming yourself? And I thought, Oh my gosh, I have really been blaming myself for this. And that was a layer. This is a whole different layer. This self-forgiveness, this healing at a new level, this really owning that we go through this trauma and abuse, that there is abuse that happens in our childhood. Maybe it didn't happen to you, and God bless you if it didn't. I had some abuse in my life. There's no doubt about it. And my husband was a really big part of saving me from that abuse. There's no doubt that he got me out of a lot of it, but I also dragged him into a lot of it. And for that, I think I woke up crying this morning because I just realized, like, this man has been here my whole life and loved me and supported me and always held me no matter what was going on. So, God, I'm so fortunate. And I know that. So now, as I meditated, as I journaled the other day, as I got really clear about where my pain is, where my pain body is in this, and what I need to do to move forward, it's self-forgiveness. It's self-forgiveness. It's no longer blaming anyone. And I have to read you this. This was so incredible. So we went all over Palm Springs, and there's this art exhibit that is so freaking cool, that is so worth just visiting Palm Springs for. They have this giant Marilyn Monroe. If you're not friends with me on Facebook, you can see it. My husband underneath it pointing at her underwear. And then over on the other side, they have these weird, creepy babies. Look up Palm Spring babies. That was really cool. They were not creepy babies. It was actually a really cool story. And I'm so incredibly grateful for my capacity to be so curious about things that I have to look things up. And I'm like constantly Googling stuff. My husband loves it. Like we just want to know more about life. We want to live life on the edge. We don't want to just look at something, make a judgment about it and walk away. We want to know more. So we ended up, because we saw it at night, and that was even creepier. And it's these babies that actually have like barcodes on their faces, and it's all about dehumanization. It's incredible. And this artist is a super duper rebel. He's in Prague. These babies have been all over the world. They were supposed to be moved in 2020. If you want to see pictures of this, look on my personal Facebook. They were supposed to be moved in 2020 because of COVID, and there was problems. There's supposed to be a building built there. They're still there, and I felt pretty fortunate to see them. So then the other thing that is also on my Facebook was this thing called the fault line. So we got curious and decided to ride around and read the explanations like a couple days after we saw this. And we had asked this waiter that we had, who's been there for like 30 years, and he didn't know, like he had nothing to say about any of it. Like he didn't know. And I was like, how do you do that? Like, how do you just walk around not knowing? Like you live here, right? So I went, and I actually went back the next day and I schooled that man. But this is what it's all about. So the fault line were these two lines, and they light them up at night, and they were supposed to be indicative of San Andreas Fault. And on one side it says not yours, and on one side it says not mine. And I read the description and it blew my mind. And it blew my mind even more today, writing it and sharing it because of what I'm just going through. So here it is. Okay. San Andreas Fault, not yours, not mine. So think about this when you do this. Who are you blaming? Okay. Are you blaming yourself? Are you blaming other people? It's not about passing the buck. It's about respecting it, learning from it, growing, and then moving on. It's easy to cling onto something unhelpful, creating an inability to grow, trembling instead of understanding, and eventually getting paralyzed on the fault. Blaming childhood, politics, a cat allergy, or worse, yourself. While the while the lucky ones absorb the tectonic shifts, deepening the awareness of the fault, releasing a lifetime of truth-seeking and discovery. Find balance during unstable periods, turned fears into meditations, and remember the earth shouldn't move you. You should move with it. Oh gosh. That really was incredibly deep, and it really hit me. When I was standing there reading it, it hit me, and then today it hit me at a whole new level. Like I didn't even know what was coming. So wow. Like, who are you blaming? And are you blaming yourself? Because I think always when we have this little piece of blaming other people, what we do is we keep ourselves from truly expanding and growing from the experience. And when we blame ourselves, it's even worse. It's even worse. And, I'll often say to people, forgive yourself because you didn't know enough then. You didn't know enough. You weren't aware enough then to do the right things, or maybe you were under alcoholism, which has definitely been, a trend in my trauma experience, or drugs, not for myself, but in my experience, people do things under the influence of drugs and alcohol that maybe they wouldn't necessarily have done. So this is about forgiveness at a whole new level. But I think one of the big things that I came to realize through this, fever, through this fever download, was that all, in my perspective and everything that I did in trying to, and I wasn't ever trying to sever relationships, but that's basically what happened. None of my feelings or none of my traumas or anything that I went through was ever acknowledged, and it was downplayed. And I think this is something that we really have to become aware of when we're dealing with an abusive situation, or when we're allowing ourselves to be abused or tolerating some sort of abuse. An abuser, and they may be doing this consciously or unconsciously, that doesn't matter to me because that still is about blame. Your abuser will often downplay what's happening to you or make you think it's your fault. Oh, yeah. So, when your feelings are downplayed, when what happened to you is downplayed, when people are telling you to get over it, and your feelings are not acknowledged and what happened to you is not acknowledged, you can often walk away with a giant gaping wound inside that needs healing. And then moving forward, if you don't deal with it, your relationships moving forward are going to reflect that to you. So this is all about going within. And I have a great whole thing. Of course, I'm not following my notes right now because this is so deeply personal. But I do have some tips and tricks of how to move forward on all of that. So let's pop into this self-hatred stuff, okay? And something else that is really important to realize, if we never face these things, like if we never face these deeper underlying things that are going on, we have less power. We work at less power. We work at, if you've got low self-esteem, low self-confidence, these are things that you've really got to start looking at, because you won't be able to shine your light in the same way. You won't be able to be that whole, healed, beautiful, incredible soul that you came here for. So, I've worked on this for years, like maybe 20 years, maybe 25 years. I've been on a spiritual seeking journey for a very long time. And I've created a spectacular life. Like, my relationships are beautiful. I have an incredible amount of friends. My marriage is incredible. But the thing is, we can put these things away. And I truly believe in like not tuning into frequencies. In fact, I had a long talk with my husband this morning, and he was like, you just got to tune this stuff out. Like, you are tuned into a frequency that is just kind of eating you alive right now. And yes, I agree with him. But I will say that when you are called like this, like when you are flattened out, any kind of illness or pain in your body is a call to some sort of emotional healing that you need to do. Only 1% of disease is connected to genetics. The rest of it is our stressors, our emotions, and the stuff we're not dealing with. So when you're called this much, I literally at 3:00 in the morning had so many memories come to me. There was no stopping it. It was like a train just going through, like, so loud and so obviously, in how I have accepted so much less than from so many people because I thought that I was less than. So, wherever you're at, these beliefs are running dormant, especially if you've never done any of the healing work. And it's not about digging for stuff. This is when stuff comes up. The rest of the time, I do believe that we just tune into these frequencies. We get into joy because I think we are way too connected to and we have too much tendency to go to the negative. We have too much tendency to work on the problems. I think that if you're feeling good, let's not dig around. This is when massive triggers come up and there is no doing anything else except sitting down and like looking them in the face. Why did it come up for me right now? I've really thought about that and I meditated on it today. I recently started doing some upper chakra work. So I have a whole episode on chakras, but there are chakras above your head and there's actually one below your feet. And so I did a teaching on that with my team, with my founding members that I work with. And so I've been asking for an opening in these upper chakras, and it opens psychic abilities and it opens a lot of different universal stuff and divine energies, and it opens up another part of your spirituality. However, you've got to make sure these lower chakras are cleared out. So I think I had some stuff that needed to clear out. So I asked for this. And as not fun as any of this shit is, it's necessary. It's what I came here for. It's the work that I promote, and it's the work that I teach, and it's the work that I truly believe in. So I don't want to be a phony. I want to do what I say I came here to do, and I want to do what I preach to everybody to do. So that's why I'm sharing this today. And it's big, and there's a readiness that's happening, I think, for me and maybe for you as well, where I'm getting ready to do bigger things. I'm getting ready to do some workshops and seminars and really kind of get on the world stage and really promote this type of living to a lot of people. And the podcast is growing massively. So I got to get myself straight. That's what I got to do. And that's what this is all about. So, yeah. So the interesting thing that happened is when I had this download, I'm going to get into self-hatred, I promise. But when I had this download, and it was connected actually to my mom, who had to leave, I heard through the grapevine, had to leave the desert because of valley fever, and the lungs and the grief and all that stuff. As soon as I journaled, as soon as I meditated on this, as soon as I released a bunch of energy, I actually did some meditations by Reverend Jude. Maybe I'll throw those in the Live Life Goldyn group. They're amazing. She's a healer I've worked with for many, many years. She's gotten me through so much of this. And I just went back to her meditations, and there's a lot of release. So I took like an hour-long bath. I did like 3 meditations the other day. As soon as I journaled and meditated, my lung pain went away. It was crazy. And I'm like, who gets this kind of lung pain and then like doesn't expel anything? Like nothing, it was like it disappeared. I'm like, I feel like I just had a miraculous recovery. I also had a migraine that day. And as soon as my husband pulled in the driveway, which he is literally like, he just makes my soul come to peace. My headache went away and I felt like amazing. And I was able to do my Fun Friday like the next day, which I definitely willed. There's no doubt about it. So the healing game, it all starts within. You are not powerless against sickness. You are not powerless against illness or pain. You've got to go in and look at that stuff and clear it out. And that's where you're going to really find success in all of that. So what you have endured does not need to define you. And if you're still enduring it, you don't have to any longer. I'm giving you permission. Self-preservation is your right. It is your right to take your power back. It is your right to stop allowing others to downplay your feelings or to create blocks in your healing because they're making you think you're being dramatic. Your feelings are allowed, and if you have intuitions and feelings and you're just living your life through obligations and resentments, I'm going to tell you it's going to lead to probably illness, because it's not living your life for your truth, for your wholeness, for your healing. It's living a life that is very much less than. Self-hatred is a mechanism to keep you from truly shining your light. It was a survival mechanism to help you feel accepted and to not stand out. So, as we're growing up, we're kind of afraid to stand out. We're afraid to be too big. We're afraid to show off. There's like jealousy. There's people not liking us. So we're very careful to stay inside of a little box so that we are accepted. It's protected you. Your self-hatred has protected you from jealousy, from truly growing and healing. It's kept you safe. It's kept you the same. It's kept you in patterns of sabotaging your success, and it's kept you chasing love and looking for love from lack. So that's what all your self-hatred has actually served you in some ways. And as you were growing up, it was a preservation thing because if there were people in your life that were abusing you or being mean to you, there was a feeling of deservability where, because if you didn't feel like you deserved it, if you really knew who you were and you really knew your power, you would have flipped out. You would have said enough is enough. And that's what I did. So if that's the case, it's time to rise up. It's time to rise above this thing and to really figure out who you are and what you're going to tolerate, what you're going to allow. You shouldn't be tolerating anything, first of all, and you shouldn't be allowing any type of abuse whatsoever in your life. If someone is yelling at you, screaming at you, calling you names, putting you down, you need to walk away and not allow that to deteriorate the very beauty and love and amazingness that you are. No more. You need to put an end to this. I don't know who I'm talking to today, maybe myself. It keeps you obligated and returning to abusive situations where you have no boundaries. Your abusers reflect the hatred that you feel and they make it seem true. Yes, time to heal, people. Time to heal. It's time to stop the cycle and heal. And knowing that this is a process, like knowing that you are in the process and wherever you are, it's okay. Knowing that there are levels within your heart that have the ability to forgive, that have the ability to let this stuff go, that have the ability to come to a new place where you start to know yourself really internally and deeply. If you don't have a meditation practice, I'm going to highly recommend it. M21 Revolution is a great resource. We're just finishing up a challenge, but you can follow that challenge through anytime. There's tons of challenges in there. So that's on Facebook. So it's a process. So here's the process. Here is the process to releasing, to gaining new clarity, to allowing yourself to come to a whole new place within. Okay, so first of all, this is what I did. I sat down. I closed my eyes. I took some deep breaths. I definitely have anxiety in my body. I still have it. In fact, now I'm talking about this, I feel a lot better. In fact, every time I talk about it, it's really interesting. My headaches go away, my anxiety goes away. So there is something to be said for allowing ourselves to vent something. This isn't about complaining. This isn't about bitching. This is about, connecting and releasing what we're really feeling inside. We were sent to our rooms for this stuff before. We weren't supposed to be angry. We weren't taught to like, tell me how you feel, honey. No, it was like, shut up and behave, right? It's like all of us. That's just like, it's just the way it was. So sit down, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, take your journal out and just start writing. And this is really if you're feeling like you have something to work on. This is not to go look for problems. This is when you're in the thick of it and you need to process something. When you're in the thick of an emotional trigger. So write down all of your frustrations. Write down all of your fears. Write down what you are the maddest about. Write down the ways you have created a war against yourself because other people have convinced you to turn on yourself. Begin reflecting on how all this started. So I didn't necessarily reflect on my childhood or the life that I created. And it wasn't more so much about my childhood. It was more about like when I started to have a family that came last night. It was reflecting on and getting really curious. And that is what really started the downloads, was when I started to kind of ask the questions of how have I navigated this life experience in the face of this trauma and abuse and this like abandonment and estrangement. Like that's what it is. I'm not going to call it what it isn't. And realizing that, and glossing over it. I don't know that I've glossed over it, but I have definitely, people when they hear this, I don't tell everybody, but when I do tell somebody, they're just like, what? Like, huh? Most people have been through the same kind of stuff. So it's okay. But some people just look at me and they feel sorry for me. And it's like, I just don't ever want that. And I don't really believe in spending any time in the past. I really don't. I believe in moving forward, in living our best life, in living the most joy we possibly can. But this is when you've got this strong emotional stuff surfacing. You write as much as you can about it, and then take some really long, slow, deep breaths, feeling into the energy of your body, asking for the release, and imagine it is leaving. Asking for assistance, asking divine energy, God, source, whatever you call in, asking your angels to assist you and to release this heavy energy that you have actually had locked in your body for a long time. I also took Epsom salt baths. Those are great for releasing, relaxing, coming to a new place. I did those quiet guided meditations in there. And when you ask for the root of something and you ask to be released from it, breathing is a great way to remove energy from your body. So I always do some deep breathing exercises, even though, I had that lung stuff going on. I was still able to do that. And the more I did it, the less I felt any sort of lung pain. So that was super cool. Okay. So running, if we're running, let's see. Okay. So the most important thing is facing. You're facing, you're no longer running. You're no longer pointing fingers. Your running is your midlife crisis. The running is the buying the Corvette. The running is the constant shopping. The running is the alcohol. The running is the weed. The running is the pills. Whatever you're doing, the distraction, the social media, the scrolling, the TV, all the constant noise and the constant movement and busyness in your life is the running. And I won't say that I've really been running from this. I wasn't called to it. And I've been super busy. Like I got a lot of projects going on, a lot of excitement going on. So, sometimes you just got to kind of be stopped in your tracks with really something that makes you stop, and that's exactly what happened. So running creates illness and disease. Hello. If you don't ever take a break, your body will take it for you, trust me. Running creates an emotional field that is beyond your control and is constantly triggered. So if you're running on emotions, if you're, constantly attacking people, if you're super angry in traffic, if you're, swearing all the time, if you're mad at people on social media, all of that is a call to heal for sure. And you have to stop running if you want to truly heal. You have to. If you keep running, I'm telling you, you're going to end up hitting a wall. There's no doubt about it. And that wall could be cancer. That wall could be, illness. That wall could be a lot of different things that stops you from moving. So you'll pay attention to this spiritual journey, to what you are here to expand and grow from. To forgive and love yourself, you must shed. I actually wrote this on Facebook today and I had to say it again because I was like, whoa, that's pretty prophetic. To forgive and love yourself, you must shred every piece of evidence that you were ever unlovable or deserved abandonment or a life that is less than. You got to shred every piece of evidence, and you got to shred it from within first. Because once you truly shred it from within, like you really work on it, you really journal it out, you're going to step back into your power, and then you're going to have different relationships with people. Those relationships won't be the same because you won't tolerate or allow abuse in your experience anymore. You are not obligated. One of my favorite sayings of late and in the past few years has been, you don't owe anyone anything, especially those who constantly take from you. Now, maybe you do have people who have done a lot of things for you in your life, and I won't say that my whole childhood was a complete, horrible scene. I would say, you know, everyone did the best they can, including myself. So, when it comes to those people in your life that have really shown up for you, the ones who really love you, encourage you, and support you, yes, we do for them, but we do for them from a place of wholeness. The ones that are constantly taking, who are asking you to, you know, push aside your integrity, or look the other way, or continually show up in an identity that is less than who you truly are. Those are not the ones that need to be obligated to. And I know, there's this big time and massive social programming about biological family. And I've been reamed for this. I've been judged for this. I've been told I have a throwaway list on this, on people. And the truth is, no one's walked in my shoes, first of all. And second of all, when it comes to real spiritual growth, in order to grow, we have to preserve ourselves. We have to look within. We've got to, no longer live for others so much in a powerless and worthless state. We've got to do that. And if we don't, then the happiness and joy that is truly available, that is our well-being, that is our natural state of well-being, will be inaccessible. So I have had to make tough decisions, like really tough decisions, that laid me out for, a couple months and a couple years, and really had me processing, who am I in this world, and identifying as someone who's really kind of standing on their own. As much as I have that my beautiful family and they're mine, it's a little different when you're severed from the whole family. So, and it's not to say feel sorry for me, because that's not at all. I do not need anyone to feel sorry for me. I am here as a beacon of truth and healing and light. And I am here to share that with people and to share my life experience, in hopes that it helps you in any possible way, assist you on your journey. Okay, back to it. You deserve better. And it all begins with what you allow and how you treat yourself. You got to treat yourself right. Looking out at the world, I think we need to have more goals of healing. I think we need to have less goals of trying to overcome stuff. And I think we need to have more goals about going within and healing. If we healed, most of our issues would go away, because we would take our power back. There would be no reason to have abusers, because we would have no self-hatred or fear for them to reflect to us. We would no longer be controlled by our wounds that cause the triggers of a wounded world. We would no longer be acting from fear. We would no longer be acting from bondage. The world healing must begin with us. It must begin with our own inner worlds. And as we heal ourselves, we heal the world. It becomes a collective consciousness. Put an end to believing that there is power over us, that we can control our lives by what we focus on. That is what I really believe is the trick right now, is to put an end to that belief that there is power over us. And by looking out and looking at all those things in the world and saying, I'm afraid that this is happening and I'm scared, and they say this and they say that. And it's like, is any of that adding a piece to your life? Is it any of it adding an element of goodness to your life? No, hell no. No, absolutely not. If you really want to create that life of joy, it's what you focus on, and what you focus on expands. So moving forward, here we go. So after you do the work, if you're being called to heal something and you work on it, and after you've done that work, moving forward, it's about interrupting the thoughts of a low frequency. This is where I'm at now. This is what I'm about to step into, is no longer going into these lower frequencies and reaching higher. So I'm going into gratitude. I'm going into love. I'm going into nature. I'm going into the love of my home and my family and all of that, and focusing on the beautiful life that I have created. Asking for more. So I put this in my M21 group the other day, and I thought it was really great. And I do this often in my meditations where I just ask for more. So I'll ask to go deeper. You can ask for inspirations. You can ask for psychic abilities. You can ask for just remember, when you ask, sometimes it's going to come maybe differently than you imagined. And sometimes it may call you to some clearing. So keep that in mind, because I asked for this upper chakra activation, and I had to clear stuff before I could get there. So that does happen. Deal with your triggers. Asking if there's an addiction. So if you've got an addiction to these emotions, or if you've got an addiction to something that's causing you to not look at your emotions, that is really important to look at. And is this an addiction to self-sabotage so you don't have to move forward in your life? Is it keeping you safe and the same? I don't have to create that business. I don't have to be, I don't have to do those things that my heart is calling me to, because I'm too depressed right now. I'm too in this low frequency of needing to heal. Some of you have been there for way too long. Like, it's time to flip the switch. You know what I mean? If it's a call to heal, healing doesn't have to take a lot of time. It really doesn't. I mean, we're talking days here where I got myself, healed from something that, like, if you look up valley fever, like what valley fever actually is it's mold spores in the soil. And this is another reason why I'm pretty sure this is what I had. So it's mold spores in the soil, and construction sites and things like that can pull it up, and then it gets caught in the wind, and then it goes into your lungs. My husband had the fever. He actually recovered pretty quickly, but he also had a rash on his back. So that was something that was indicative of that. And everybody else in the house is healthy. It's not contagious. And we rode by a couple of construction sites and also a demolition site where they had just demoed a church that had burned. So, we're biking around and it's windy. And the feeling in my lungs was not of a cold. It was not of me, I didn't have any junk in my lungs. It was literally like an infection in my lungs. So again, colloidal silver, hello, saved my life. Colloidal silver and looking at my stuff saved my life, right? All right. So dealing with your triggers, asking if they're addiction, getting comfortable with doing loving things for yourself. Start to do that. Like, if you have a problem accepting gifts from people, or if you have a problem taking a bath, like if you feel a lot of guilt, you got to look at that stuff, because you've really got to start loving yourself, and you've got to allow yourself to be taken care of. That self-care, that self-love is so important, and it goes a really long way to forging the relationship that you have with yourself, and to creating a loving relationship there. Being in receiving mode. So that means, opening yourself up and being able to receive when people want to pay for you, or when people want to give you stuff, or when you're literally manifesting something and you're like, oh, I don't know if I should take that because I have the money to pay for it. And it's like, no, that's not what this is about. This is receiving mode. This is allowing another person to give because they want to give, because they feel good to give. And it's allowing yourself to receive by saying, I love myself enough to receive this gift. I am loved, I am whole, I am healed, and I am worthy. That's what it is, totally. Saying no for a little while. Some of y'all probably need to say no for a little while, because there's a lot of people pleasing going on. And if you're doing a lot of that stuff, it's hard to work on your own journey when you're running around trying to make everybody else happy. People will survive. They'll figure it out. And they might get mad at you for a little bit, but this is the thing about that. If you don't feel guilty and you're like, I'm standing in my own power, I'm doing what I need to do right now for me, this is important for me, I've lived my whole life for everybody else, they won't reflect that guilt to you. They'll get over it very quickly. I have put that one to practice. At least meditating when people ask you to do stuff, and seeing what your motive is behind saying yes or no. If your motive behind saying yes is, I want them to like me, That's got to go. If your motive behind helping them is, well, I love that person and I feel good about doing that. And I feel like it's good for me. Or, I love watching the energy. Like if I'm not sure if I should do something or not, I watch the energy field and it tells me if I should move forward with it or not. Asking what, yeah, ask, okay. And why are you doing this? Always, why are you doing this? Why am I doing this? Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Oh, I got through all my pages. Okay, awesome. All right, so that is that is the long and short of self-hatred. I just want to say, if you've got something going on right now, like if you've got somebody in your life right now or a group of, just of different people, because the thing about being bullied, if you've got low self-esteem and low self-confidence, the thing about being bullied is bullies will find you. They'll find you. I was bullied big time in middle school, and then I ended up bullying a girl. So the thing about bullies is it's almost like you've got like a signal that says bully me, because they can sense your powerlessness. They can sense your unworthiness. So if you want to have really good relationships and good experiences, you've got to clean up your own game. You've got to clean up your own platform, your own foundation. So if you have that going on right now, I would do the work first. I would do the internal work first before you sever any relationship. This is not a promotion for severing relationships. Trust me, that was a massive decision, and it was a lot of momentum that had led me to that decision. So this is really more about just, and honestly, it's like if we all could just work on our stuff, we probably wouldn't have to sever relationships. It's just when we get to a point where it gets so overwhelming that feels like the only decision that can be made, then that's when we end up losing relationships. So, doing the healing work could actually help you preserve things with people. But really work on yourself. And then a really good tip, if you are dealing with challenging people, I love doing the positive aspect sheet where I just write out what I love about that person. Asking myself, like, is there any joy left in this? That's a really good question to ask when you're in relationships. Is there any joy left in this? And do I have to keep subjecting myself to something that makes me feel, or that creates feelings within me that are less than what I want to create in this life experience, And if you can communicate, and if you can talk to somebody, and if you can work on these things, hell yes. Like I say all the way, hell yes. Because there's a lot of pain involved in estrangement. There's a lot of, there's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of like things kind of out in the air, out in the ethers that you wonder about. And, I've done a great job because I think because I'm so good at mind training. And if you get really good at mind training, you'll have it is a lot easier to navigate the emotional field when you can really work with your mind and not allow yourself to go to these deep, dark places. But sometimes the journey is going to call you there, and you don't really, I'm not going to say you don't have a choice, but you're better off looking at it. You're better off looking at it and healing from it, and doing the work for sure. Cause you don't want to end up sick. Good Lord. That was nasty. That was one of the nastiest things I think I ever had. And it tends to like turn into pneumonia. So I think that I did a good job of kind of nipping it in the bud and dealing with what I had to deal with timely enough so that I didn't have to get sicker or, create more of a issue in my body. Thank goodness. Thank the Lord, baby Jesus. Okay. Let me know if you have questions. I have my M21 group on Facebook that you can join. You can follow me at Live Life Goldyn on Instagram. I still have Quantum Speak coming out on Audible. It is actually on I haven't even looked at this, but it is actually on Kindle now. So you can look at it on Kindle, and I just have to get in there, one of the many, many projects out there that I need to complete. A lot of good things coming up, a lot of wonderful things. Would love to engage with you more. The Live Life Goldyn group is actually going to undergo some changes. We're going to become a private group. I'm working with a podcast person who's going to help me grow the podcast. And so we're going to put it under a private group with questions. So please invite people in there and engage. Let me know about your manifestation stories. Let me know if you need shifting on something. I'm here to assist on the journey. And thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I actually have on Supercast, I have a way for you to support the show. I've got a VIP for $20 or $5 just to support the show and show that you're, getting value and supportive. And I send my VIP members off. And in fact, my VIP members will get the Audible as soon as it's done. They'll get that for free. So that's a reason to do it. What else? What else? What else? What else? Enjoy your life. I feel like my oldest daughter called when we were in Palm Springs, and she had this harrowing experience on a kayak. And gosh, I didn't even know I was going to share this. Hopefully she's okay with me. Yeah, she is, because she shared it on Facebook. So they were going down this river, a river she's been on many times, and the river split and she went one way and all of her friends and her husband went the other way. And she realized there was a tree across. So she said, go the other way. Don't come this way. I'm coming back. And with that, she got sucked underneath the tree and her kayak flipped over, filled with water, and she was underneath the tree. I mean, I can't even imagine. And she really thought she was going to die. And when she told me this story, I still feel a little traumatized from it because, as a mother, I think we have a tendency to kind of go into what could have happened and what my life would be like right now. And I never, ever, ever, ever want to know. So she ended up grabbing the tree and actually getting her head above the water. And then her husband had been calling her, and her thought was, no one is coming for me. I'm going to die because no one is coming for me. So her husband came around and was calling her. And when she didn't answer, he, went fast to go see what was going on. So he ended up pulling her out of the water. The water was 50 degrees. I mean, good Lord. So thankfully she survived, but trauma, she has not felt good emotionally. It's been a real trigger to her. And it's interesting. And maybe I'll get her on the show to talk about it, because she has her own journey on this, earth. And beautifully, the first thing she thought of was, I need to work with an energy healer to process this, because oftentimes we can't process things by ourselves because we're too close to it. I think and I still may contact someone to work with someone on all of this stuff. But I think because I've been doing it for so long with so many people, I do have the ability to process and remove energy myself. But again, I may, just for perspective's sake, and just to gain some more information, if I feel called to it, I will definitely reach out to someone. But having a really good energy healer is an incredible resource. I use Reverend Jude Smith in New York for a long time. Rhinebeck, New York. She actually married my daughter, and my daughter works with her still. So I may reach out. You never know. We'll see what the energy tells me to do. That is it. I definitely thought this show was going to be a lot longer. I did. Jeez Louise. I just pumped that out. If you are struggling, if you are really struggling with this self-hatred, self-forgiveness stuff, it's an inside job. And you've got to go within, you got to work on these things, and you got to really start to heal from them, so you stop creating scenarios in your life that continue the cycle of feeling unlovable and continue the cycle of you allowing acts against you that facilitate that belief. Because you are lovable, you are whole, you are healed. You have the ability to be all of these things, to step into the identity of being whole, being healed, being loved, being, letting your brilliance shine, letting your light. You have the ability because you're connected to the stream of infinite intelligence. You're the expression of all that is. And because of that, you have the potential to be more. And it would be a shame, it would be a shame for you not to experience that, for you to die with your song still in you. And the truth is, none of us know. It's like my daughter, who, good Lord, is like turning 30 this year. That's frightening to look at that. But then for her to take stock in her own life and say, all right, what's working for me and what's not? I need to live life now and not put it off. That's so important. It's so important. All right. I love you all. Let me know if you have questions. You can get me on the Live Life Golden page on Facebook. And my email is livelifegolden@gmail.com. Love y'all. Peace.